to Goddess, through which rivers flow. Oh, our Lord, forgive us our sins, accept our faith in the hereafter. Save us thee from the hellfire, admit us to Goddess, through which rivers flow, through which rivers flow.
This program is sponsored by the SPI Charity Foundation.
So, Shaykh, did he, Prophet ﷺ, state any specific examples of those who will be interrogated?
Yes, indeed. He taught us many of those, so that we will be aware of these sins, because these are then great sins, because they will cause such tough questioning and reckoning. In one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ gave us an example of 3 types of people. And in fact, he said that these 3 are the first 3 to be thrown in fire. He mentioned a man whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have taught him Qur'an and gave him the knowledge. In the day of judgment, Allah will ask him, what did you do with the Qur'an you knew and with the knowledge I provided you? The man would reply, I recited Qur'an for your sake, and I spread knowledge for your sake. Allah will say, you lied. And the angels will say, you lied. You did so that you will be praised by people. And they will say, mashallah, you are a scholar. Mashallah, you are a nice reciter of Qur'an. This was your intention in doing so. And you got that. People praised you. So you have no reward left for you from us. And then he will be pushed in fire. Then he mentioned the example of a man whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him wealth. And so he was rich. So on the day of judgment, Allah will ask him, what did you do with the wealth and money I gave you, I provided for you? The man would claim that he used it to donate for the sake of Allah, to give his relatives for the sake of Allah. Allah will say to him, you lied. And the angels will say, you lied. You spent so that it will be said, mashallah, he's generous. And you got such a praise you were looking for. So no reward is left for you now. And he will also be pushed in the fire. And finally, he mentioned the example of a man who was killed in a war. When he is brought in front of Allah on the day of judgment, Allah will ask him, what you were killed for? He said, I was killed for your sake. I was fighting for your sake. And I was then killed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, you lied. And the angels will say, you lied. You fought so that they will say, what a brave man he is. So you're looking for the praise from the people. This is what we call an riya, looking for praises from the people. You're not waiting for my reward. You're not doing it for my sake. And for that, you have no reward here, and he will be pushed in fire. So these are examples of people who will be questioned and interrogated, and then they will be punished.
So, Shaykh, whatever we have talked about till now was about and regarding the people who failed to fulfill their duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they disobeyed him, etc. So now coming to the people who have wronged other people. For example, in this life, we see some people may oppressing others, beating them or hurting them, etc. So how would these kind of people face reckoning?
That's a very good question. Probably one of the main values in believing in the day of judgment, to know that any unjust behavior or oppression people may have in this life would definitely be sorted out later if it's not sorted out in this life. This is why the day of judgment is there. So this life is not isolated from the day after. It's in fact a continuation. The Prophet ﷺ then warned us and he said, whoever من كان له مظلمة عند أخيه فليتحلل منها قبل أن لا يكون دينار ولا درهم. Whoever have wronged his brother by anything, let him pay it now. Let him resolve it now. Let them sort it out now, before a day comes where money exchange would not help. And that day there will be exchange of deeds. So better solve it now and sort it now, because it will be too expensive to sort it later. The Prophet ﷺ once was sitting with his companions, and he asked them a question. Do you know who is the bankrupt one? Al-Muflis. They said, we consider the bankrupt one is the one who has no property. No money, no furniture, no house. The Prophet ﷺ said, well, the real bankrupt one of my nation is a man who comes on the day of judgment with prayers, fasting, charity. Yet he will come and he had insulted someone, beaten someone, stolen someone. So, on the day of judgment, these people have to get their rights back. In what form? In the form of his good deeds. He has to pay them of his good deeds as in compensation for the wrongdoing he did to them in his life. So he will pay that one from his deeds, and that one from his deeds, and that one from his deeds. Now if his good deeds are over, and yet he did not pay it all, then what would happen? He will take from their bad deeds and sins and will be thrown on him. Then he will end up being a real bankrupt one who has no good deeds and only in debt. He has all the bad deeds of himself and of others. This is what the Prophet ﷺ considered the bankrupt one. So it's very serious that one would sort out any wrongdoing in this life and not leave it for the day after, because it's very expensive to sort it then. In that regard, I probably may mention another an interesting or important story. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, I have slaves who serve me, but these people betray me, disobey me, and tell me lies. In response to that, I punish them. What would be the situation in the day after?" The Prophet ﷺ said, well, when it is in the day after, then their betrayal, their disobedience, and their telling lies will be calculated. How much did they do this to you? And your punishment to them will also be calculated. Now, if it happens that their misdoing to you is over your punishment, then you will still have a credit from them. However, if it's found that your punishment has exceeded their wrongdoing, then they will have a credit that they will take from you. And then the Prophet ﷺ recited the verse, وَنَضَعُ الْمَوَازِينَ الْقِسْطَ لِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ فَلَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ شَيْئًا وَإِنْ كَانَ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ أَتَيْنَا بِهَا وَكَفَى بِنَا حَاسِبِينَ. That is, we place the just balances on the day of judgment, and not a tiny single thing will be wronged. Everybody will take his full rights.
Jazakallahu khairan, Shaykh. That's all we had for this episode. Thank you for sharing all this information with us.
وإياكم إن شاء الله. جزاك الله خير.
So, dear brothers and sisters, here was Dr. Ma'an Kusa with us talking about the reckoning and how the believers would be facing reckoning. Please join us in our next episode, where we will be moving ahead in our journey of the hereafter and learn from our Shaykh what happens after the day of reckoning. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
This program is sponsored by the SPI Charity Foundation.
To God, through which rivers flow. Oh, our Lord, forgive us our sins, accept our faith in the hereafter. Save us thee from the hellfire, admit us to Goddess, through which rivers flow, through which rivers flow.